German pop duo Modern Talking, which consists of some of the most famous musicians. Dieter Bohlen and Thomas Anders have been commonly referred to as Germany's most successful pop duo. No doubt they have created plenty of hit singles reaching the top 5 in many countries and have broken many records, but more and more people are now coming out with the claim that all this fame and success was just a facade, almost like a form of fake reality. People have gone as far as to suggest that the only reason why this duo has been celebrated so widely is simply because they know the art of selling, and not because they have any musical talent whatsoever. It is also for this reason that Modern Talking now classifies as one of the biggest musical hoax of all time. So what did this band do to deserve all this hate? Did they buy their way into the world of fame and success? If yes, how? If not, what else could have possibly gotten them so much popularity if their music was trash? Yes, trash, this is the label that is slowly but surely becoming anonymous to their musical productions. It's time to find out the answer to all these questions, but before we talk about their downfall, how and why it happened, let's see what the golden days of the band looked like, because this will make the entire story even more interesting. Just the comparison of how high in the sky they were soaring, and then the eventual downfall. But first, how did Modern Talking come to existence? Dieter and Thomas came up with the idea of producing music together by collaborating on projects. A lot of their initial work was well received by their audience, and that's how the duo became official and gave their band a proper name. Together the two worked with each other from 1983 up until 1987, the year which created a major twist in their history as a band as they decided to go their own separate ways. After this, Modern Talking came to an end, but not forever. They made a successful comeback and then recorded and released music from 1998 to 2003, during which they made many singles that entered the top 10 in Germany and in other places. But then things turned sour between them again, and this led to their very controversial final breakup in 2003. But by this time their combined global sales of singles and albums had reached 120 million. But the real question is that if they were so successful working together and made a ton of money just by collaborating, why did they disband not just once but twice? Well, that's a story in itself, but more on that later. Before we speak about how the band became an unpopular choice among many people, let's talk about their journey to fame, because I'm sure you have many questions in mind. Like, was it an accident, something that just happened by luck, or was it hard work that eventually became too difficult for the duo to keep up with? Well, this entire crazy famous situation for the band did not start until 1985, when their song "You're My Heart, You're My Soul" suddenly went viral. People loved it so much that in no time it qualified as the top 10 positions in 35 countries, even reigning at the top in their home country for 6 whole weeks. This single alone went on to sell out a whopping 8 million copies. Most likely inspired by this success, they released another chart-topping hit, "You Can Win If You Want," from their debut album. This album was also certified as platinum in Germany for selling over 500,000 units. Crazy, isn't it? Soon after their second hit, Modern Talking released the single "Cherry Cherry Lady," which also quickly climbed to #1 in a bunch of places, including West Germany, Greece, Finland, Switzerland, Spain, Austria, and Norway, and even made it into the top 10 in Denmark, Sweden, Belgium, and the Netherlands. But here comes the twist. From this point onwards, things really started to go downhill. Because after the first 5 successful albums that they released, the 6th one was not too loved. And following the not very awesome reception of their 6th album, Dieter declared the end of the project in a German interview which took place while Thomas had gone away for some time to Los Angeles. Their relationship had never been too great, but as you can imagine, this announcement only intensified the animosity between them. This, along with a few other very public clashes, eventually weakened the pillar upon which the band stood, and that is the relationship between Modern Talking's duo. In one interview, Dieter openly spoke up about what caused Modern Talking to disband, blaming Thomas's then-wife Nora as the primary cause for the split. According to him, she had prohibited her husband from conducting interviews with female reporters and had repeatedly insisted on making significant alterations to their show's videos and recordings. This probably led to a lot of conflicts and disagreements between the two. Later on, Dieter's words were also verified by Thomas in his biography. Regardless, it became very obvious that things between the duo were going downhill, and at the same time, more and more people were coming out against their music as well. People who used to enjoy their songs previously started to realize that they're all basically the same. I mean, it's really not that difficult to notice the insanely obvious pattern of similarity in their songs with the same beat, same structure, and questionably similar melody. If you have any doubts about what I am saying, go ahead and string parts of their biggest songs together, and I am sure that you are barely going to notice any change between one song and the next. Ignoring the hate, both members continued working solo. It's also important to point out here that this was the starting point of the duo's work being criticized, and there were still many fans who looked forward to their work. So it's not like the two kept on producing and working like they did previously and nobody enjoyed listening to them. The hardcore fans stuck throughout, and some even continued to defend them even after many of their questionable affairs were revealed to the public. Moving forward, in 1984, Dieter was inspired by the hit single Precious Little Diamond by Fox the Fox to incorporate falsetto choruses into his music. The high choruses characteristic of modern talking were created by the studio vocal lineup of Rolf Kohler, Michael Scholz, Detlef Wiedekeek, along with some other members. But these people were not credited, and this led to a huge legal dispute. Ultimately, they received an out-of-court settlement, and Dieter had no other option but to publicly acknowledge their role in his next release, Obsession by Blue System. So it's safe to say that even after the sudden yet expected end of Modern Talking, the controversies didn't stop, because the names once associated with the band continued doing things that grabbed public attention, and of course I don't mean this in a very good way. Surely the troubles with Dieter too did not end with the legal dispute, as another troubling event occurred in 2006 when Dieter included a secret message in his song Bizarre Bizarre. This song, when played backward, goes something like this: "There will never be an end to modern talking." When interrogated about the intentions behind this message, he simply replied that all he meant was to say that the music of modern talking will live forever. Even though many people did not like this way of mentioning modern talking when it was fully known that the band had broken up forever, he never really stopped. But maybe we can give him some benefit of the doubt here. Perhaps the reason why we kept seeing hints of modern talking in his solo productions is because he had some kind of deep emotional connection with the band. After all, he did spend so many of his good days working for the band. The reason why I'm saying this is because Dieter has written 2 autobiographical books about modern talking's history from his perspective. So he didn't just mention the band in his songs, but also worked hard to make a point that the band didn't get buried away and would always be remembered by the generations to come. Interestingly, this autobiography was also well received by people, with around 1 million copies sold in Germany alone. The sequel, which was published a short time after, was however heavily criticized for his unfairness towards the people he worked with. The hate that he received was so harsh that it made Dieter withdraw from the public for a year, until 2006. Later he spoke about how he regretted putting out the second book. He had to face a lot after publishing the book, because his ex-bandmate Thomas was not the only one who pressed charges against Dieter and demanded that some sections of the book should be changed. Frank Farian was also deeply angered by Dieter's work, and as a retaliatory act he went ahead and released a book in which he tried to expose Dieter as a fraudulent individual. So what do you think? Does modern talking deserve all the hate it's getting, or is this just some sort of propaganda designed to bring them down and undervalue the work they have done? Make sure to let us know your views on this in the comments down below.